Hello everybody, this is Roger from Roger's Reviews. Today I'm going to talk about how I made over $10,000 in one day. When I grew up, everybody used to lie to me. They used to tell me that money didn't grow on trees. But on September 11th, 2017, I proved them all wrong. I've had a tree service for over 20 years, and I've always struggled in the past, different jobs, and finally I had a landscape company. I was a massage therapist, personal trainer, had a vending business, lots of different companies, and I finally found my own when I came into the tree service. In 2017, Hurricane Irma came, and the thing about hurricanes, you have to be prepared. You have to basically be preparing before the storm ever hits, which I was. The problem was all my employees that were working with me, they either were they were unable to come to work. They were up all night. They didn't get any sleep, and so called a couple of my employees, and they weren't able to come to work. I had another guy in the complex that was working with me, and he was unable to work. So basically, everybody turned me down. I was lucky enough to have one person volunteer to help me. And as I was leaving my condo, I have a F-250 four-wheel drive truck. We were basically blocked in. We had a bunch of trees down in the condo, and he asked me what he had to do. And basically, I told him, all you have to do is make sure people get out of my way, stay out of my way, and hand me tools, hand me chainsaws, hand me fuel, and maybe use a blower. Because during storm work, our job is to get all the materials to the road. FEMA comes up and picks up all the material. So, and this opportunity only comes along every once in a while. So you have to take advantage of this opportunity. I could have sat at home and just, not did anything, and basically, gave up because nobody would work with me. But I do have a bucket truck, I do have a mini skid, and I have a stump grinder, and I have a friend that has a crane. Second situation, when I was going to the shop, there was about 3 or 4 feet of standing water, and I had a choice: either try to go through that standing water and bury my truck, or go home. Well, I chose to try to make it through. I went about 30 or 40 mile an hour into the water, and it slowed my truck down to about 10 or 15 mile an hour. I had the truck floored, and my truck sits up. It's a standard 4x4 F-250. I was barely able to make it through the water, and I came to the railroad tracks, which sits up above the water. I revved the motor up and blew the rest of the water out, and there was no turning back at that point. So I drove forward into more water, and I turned to the left and cut through a parking lot, and was barely able to make it through. Luckily for me, my shop was on higher ground, so once I made it through the flood zone, I was able to drive uphill, blow the rest of the water out of my tailpipe, and when I got to my shop, it was high and dry. The nice thing about the bucket truck, it sits a lot higher than my 4x4, so I was able to get into the bucket truck and attach all the tools I needed in the trailer to the bucket truck, and I proceeded on. This was probably approximately 9:30 a.m. in the morning, and I looked at my phone. I have an answering service, which is one of the best things I ever did. I had over 100 calls before I woke up. I had one salesman at the time that was returning calls, but I woke up early in the morning and I started returning calls myself, and I set up about 4 or 5 appointments, and then I called about 4 or 5 others, and I got enough work to keep me started, keep me going until my salesman could take over. My first stop was the Orange Park Country Club, and I started a job that had a tree on a house, and I called my buddy that has Southeast Crane Service, and he came over and helped me get the tree off the house. And in storm work, normally there's work everywhere. You can't get to it all. So the neighbors started coming over, asking me to pull trees off their houses, pull trees off their cars. We ended up doing about 4 or 5 jobs just in that local area, just pulling trees off houses, off cars, uh, cutting trees the rest of the way down and pushing them to the curb. At this time, I did most of the work out of the bucket truck, and I came down and jumped in a skid steer and pushed all the materials to the road. I was assisted by 1 or 2 jobs by my friend that had the crane. Once we finished one job and pushed it to the curb, my helper would blow with the backpack blower and blow the rest of the materials to the pile, and we'd jump to the next one, and jump to the next one, and jump to the next one. I can't remember how many jobs I did that day, but it was nonstop. When I got up in the dark, and by the time I got home, I was in the dark. We even had situations where the battery went dead because the alternator belt was loose. So we ended up switching batteries to get back to the shop. On the way back to the shop, I got one last and final call. We were up to about almost $9,000 at that point. My salesman called and said I sold one more job for $1,800. I kind of smiled and I asked him, I said, how much is that for the day? I already knew in my head what it was. It was well over $10,000. This was with one man, a bucket truck, and some tools, a mini skid steer, and a blower and a helper, and assistance on 1 or 2 jobs from a crane. This was the gross profit I've ever made by myself with a little help. So if anybody ever tells you the money doesn't grow on trees, don't listen to them. If you like this, video, please crush the like button and don't give up on your dreams. Thanks for watching.